There are a lot of great conversations being had right now about fasting for women and how we may want to approach these things a bit differently and see them with a bit more nuance. But what about biohacking in general? What about things like cold therapy? Should women also approach these things differently? Stay tuned to this episode to find out. Welcome back, my friends. My name is Sarah. I am known as Carnivore Yogi. Thank you so much for being here and clicking on today's video. Today, I have an interview with Kristin Weitzel, who is founder of Warrior Woman Mode, and we talk about all things biohacking for women. This episode is absolutely packed full of information. You can check out that information section and surf around through the different topics. We do cover women who are cycling and women who are not cycling, those women who are in menopause as well. So we try to talk about all women in this episode, and again, how you may want to biohack just a little bit differently. It is a very male-dominated field, this biohacking thing, and I have found a lot of the biohacking practices to be really, really helpful for me personally. So I want to continue to have these types of conversations where we discuss these things with a bit more nuance and we understand and feel what it's like to listen to our bodies and to, again, approach these different practices with nuance and not just throw them off the table and throw them out and say that they're no good and they can't help us at all, because I think that they can. So I hope that you guys enjoy this episode with Kristen. Again, lots of stuff in the information section, timestamps, as well as how you can follow Kristen, connect with her, and even participate in some of her programs. I want to thank the two sponsors of today's video. The first one is going to be Optimal Carnivore. You can use my code Carnivore, uppercase Y, over on Amazon to save 10%. These organ meat complex supplements are awesome. I use them daily for myself, for my family. They are great for keeping your immune system running robustly in the winter. And I think that organ meats are just a fabulous addition to the diet, especially if you want to keep those nutrient levels in a good place. When we talk about minerals, my go-to is Upgraded Formulas, discount code YOGI12. Their magnesium is absolutely amazing. I also love their potassium. So I am not a huge supplement person. You're not going to find me taking 30, 40 pills per day. I've talked about this in other episodes, but two things that I do make sure that I'm getting is number one, enough nutrients. That's why I trust Optimal Carnivore. And number two, my minerals are absolutely vital. So the hair tissue mineral analysis from Upgraded Formulas with a consultation is the way to find out whether or not you need to replace minerals, or maybe you've been replacing them too much and you need to back down a little bit. Use my code YOGI12 to save at Upgraded Formulas. And I really hope you guys enjoy this episode and this conversation with Kristen. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, guys. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming back and tuning in. I'm really excited about today's guest. I've got Kristin Weitzel here, who I just actually found her work, and I'm really excited because she talks so much about biohacking for women and how we need to be a little bit more nuanced with these things. So Kristen, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here to spend some time with you and talk more about the things that matter to get women healthy and how to balance our power and our sensitivity all at once.
I love that. And, you know, this world of biohacking, which you're pretty immersed in, I definitely want to get the background of how you got into it. Yeah. It's very male dominated, kind of like keto and fasting, but even more so, I think, in the biohacking community. So I feel like this conversation is just really necessary, as a lot more women really want to get in and start trying out some of the things like cold therapy and training in tune with their hormones. And so, yeah, how did you get interested in biohacking and what's your story?
Yeah, my origin story is, it's like long and winding, as many people's are. The one thing that's really interesting about me, I think, in some way, is that I didn't come from a story of big dis-ease and then dysregulation into a place where I was like, I solved this issue, and that's why I'm fascinated by biohacking. But I always have been, and I say that at the same time that I talked on a podcast recently about how I had this whole litany of events that happened all around my stress markers. And then I ended up at the biggest biohacking conference in the world in Florida the day before I was to go on stage. And my entire nervous system was like, nope, you're shutting down. You need to get in the bath. I was like shaking. And, so there are things that have happened to me, which is like why I purport this thing and why I sort of have framed it as such, like I just did in the beginning of this conversation, which is we are powerful as females. But the thing we continue to overlook is how equally as sensitive we are, and that our human body and our physiology specifically as women, not only has it not been researched forever,
right.
But there are nuances, just like you use, that's a beautiful term, right? There's nuances that we need to specialize in and around because of where we are in our life, where we are in our reproductive years, outside of them, et cetera. But that was a big moment for me that really was more recent in the last few months that really pushed my trajectory of standing on a soapbox and saying, we're doing it wrong, guys, gals, women, we're doing it wrong. How do we do this differently? And I've always believed that, but I think that I needed something like that to be a catalyst to me shouting from the rooftops, because I always thought I was loud enough and there were enough people listening. And that's not really how you get reach, right? If you want to be an expert with reach, then you have to be able to get on a rooftop and have platforms just like this to have these conversations. And I was a dancer when I was young. I was sort of the weirder girl in the sense of like, I had a juicer when I was 18. This was like, people were not juicing vegetables. And I was like reading books like about food combining and all different styles of nutrition to figure out like just how I was going to feed myself well and keep myself in a body and a physique that made sense for dancing, right? A lot of body image issues, lots of shame in the ballet world back then. And, we all still deal with a modicum of body dysmorphia coming from socialization, magazines, news, television, all of that. I'd like to believe it's gotten better. But I've always been a self-experimenter, and it started with food and juicing, and it kind of worked its way through and into biohacking at a very early stages of the game, just meaning when Dave Asprey, who coined the term biohacking, sort of started to talk about his bulletproof lifestyle and what biohacking was, I jumped on board very quickly. I was following the irony of my story, or the interesting part of the story as well, is that most of the mentors and the people that I've worked with in nutrition, in sport, in fitness, in training, in biohacking have all been men.
Yeah.
And that was a very consistent theme because of what you mentioned about males being the dominant energy there. It was also a very consistent theme in my corporate days when I was working in consumer packaged goods for a number of years. I had all male colleagues and bosses. I would be one woman in a division of 18. And as I climbed up the ranks and moved and worked with different brands, it was very rare that women were coming into the fold. And it sort of reverse engineered me with a lot of this alpha energy, a lot of this doing things like in a man's world, like a man would do. And for sure, like David Goggins and Jocko Willink and all these guys, like I love them. I wake up in the morning to, this is a total sidebar, but I wake up in the morning, Jocko Willink has a recorded album called Psychological Warfare. And he has these like motivational, like get to the gym and I'm going to give you 10 counts to get out of bed. And I kind of wake up to that. Right. And I love to like march to the drum of that really driven, sympathetic, dominant nervous system energy. And it's almost gotten to become a fault. It's like to a fault. I'm like sympathetic, dominant. I want to power through it. And in the arc of my career, and the arc of getting into the health space, and the arc of all these men telling me how to do things best, because quite honestly, no slight on them, that's how they were doing it and it worked for them. I started to notice the differences that existed really, really pretty quickly, just in communication style, in sensitivity to the system, and things I was trying that were not working for my female physique or for my female being, or just I was, quite frankly, in the youngest years of biohacking, I was ignoring some intuition to power through, thinking there's something on the other side of this. And like the dudes that are out there and like the bromance of biohacking are all people that I respect, admire, and love. You look at the Ben Greenfields of the world, you look at Dave, Mark Sisson, although people don't always call him a biohacker, listen to the Sisson. He was my first foray into paleo and a lot of the food coursing that then worked into biohacking. But biohacking as a thing, I've kept this term. I love that you use this term because it's not going away and it doesn't feel approachable to women. or it hasn't felt approachable to women. And even on my podcast, which is called Well Power, I say it's your biohacking roadmap, because I don't want to lose the term, and I want to make it feel like it's accessible to females, right? This term hacking has a kind of a, it has a feeling to it that isn't warm and fuzzy for everyone. And I want to remind people who may be listening to this, who may or may not know, that biohacking is really this convergence of ancient practices, things we've done for hundreds or thousands of years, with modern technological innovation, and where the science is keeping up, weaving that in, and experimentation. So we want to weave all those things together to be able to create the optimal cellular structure, the best health and longevity, the most energy that we can create, so that we can just live with self-love and joy and be showing up for our communities and families. And that's, in essence, that's my definition of what this biohacking thing is about, which is mostly the aim of many, many people, many, many women. And so all of the energies that have led up to this moment have come from sort of that baseline of navigating experimentation and trialing so many things. And failing, if you're not failing at some stuff, you aren't trying hard enough, so that's my story. Is, there's a lot of different detail in there, of course, but it's brought me to where I am now. It's I'm 13 years into the biohacking world and game and space. I've danced, I've played in the nutrition realm. I'm a nutrition specialist, a fitness coach. I do a lot of different things. I like to say also, I'm not a personal trainer. Can I do that? Yes. But there are plenty of other people out in the world that are training with a level of expertise that is just, I continue to learn from those people. So I want to take women and transform them from this edge of burnout place, from this misunderstanding, misconception that we have to go all the time, and to make them into powerful, soft, and strong warriors. And that's it, man. That's my peak expression in the world. That's the way that I want to show up for other women. I believe it's really strong in the way that you show up for other women as well.
Yeah, I am just sitting here nodding my head through so much of what you're saying, because I remember finding Dave Asprey years ago and just getting so fired up listening to all the stuff he was doing. And I'm so fired up, and I'm like, all right, bulletproof coffee, intermittent fasting, go. And it went so great for a couple of weeks. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like complete crap. My cycle was late. And I actually had a male personal trainer at the time he's on the cusp of a lot of this stuff. We're still in contact. And I've gotten into a lot of Dr. Cruz's stuff. He loves Dr. Cruz. So we kind of talk back and forth. But, at the time he was training me, and I showed up and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just not feeling good today. And he's like, well, what's going on? I'm like, well, I've been trying to do Dave Asprey's stuff, bulletproof coffee and fasting. And he's like, stop. He's like, that's not good for women. And I'm like, why? And he's like, your hormonal system is completely different than a man's. And I do not like my female clients doing a ton of intermittent fasting. And on top of that, starting your day with nothing but coffee with fat in it, for they can do that every now and then, but every single day, he's like, that's why you feel like crap and you're swollen today and you're not able to show up for training. And that was the first time that I was like, oh, well, what are we supposed to do then? And he didn't really have a great answer for it other than don't,
Well, maybe he's seeing anecdotal evidence right across the women he's working with. And I want to honor and shout out your trainer for actually being in touch with that, because I have worked with teams of some of the best gyms in the world where the male trainers, and even the female trainers, to be clear, this is not a slight against men against women, but 50% of the people they're training are females, and they are not training women according to their cycle. And it's women can say no to that, but they're not even offering it. They're not even having a conversation about what part of your cycle are you in. And in my opinion, very strongly, if you're going to ask about food, if you're going to ask about sleep, and you have a female as a client, whether you're a male or a female trainer, you've got to get in touch with what's going on with their hormone cycle, right? I have clients here in Austin where they have male trainers, and I'm driving the bus being today is day 7. This is the beginning of a peak of estrogen. And I know that you were planning on doing X. I am not here to step on anyone's toes for their programming, but I'm going to be the babysitter, the reminder, the cheerleader of the menstrual cycle or the month for the women that are still in that reproductive phase of their life. And I'm going to say, Cool, Kevin, whatever you want to do is totally great today, but it's day 7, and recognize this is the estrogen spike that we've talked about, and that we can really build more muscle. We have capacity to build more muscle during this next week. So how do we get an extra training session in? How do you focus exclusively on strong, heavy lifts and training in that way? And so that, that's for my one-on-one clients. Those are like added value layers that I put into the mix. The reality is also, as women, we need to know where we are in our cycle at all times, so we know what's going on.
And as a woman, me at the age of 42 now, when I hit 35, I realized and felt very strongly like, oh, wow, my adrenals are starting to take over a little bit more. As women, we lose function of our ovaries as we get older and older towards menopause, and our adrenals become so much more sensitive once we hit the age of 35. And that's when women start having the issues with the thyroid and like adrenal fatigue, because
I love that you put that in air quotes.
Yeah.
It's a symptom. I mean, it's a symptom, right? I don't think it's a baseline issue. It's an issue, but it's a symptom of other stuff going on, right? And
right.
sometimes this adrenal fatigue is beaten up. Women will come to me self-diagnosed, never seeing a doctor, and being like, so I have adrenal fatigue. And I'm like, okay, there's a lot. Look, this is not to like judge anyone. This is just like, there's a lot. That's a rabbit hole that is compact with a ton of things that we can peel apart there.
And it's not a death sentence. That's the thing. Like, I have so many women that are, well, I have adrenal fatigue. And I'm like, okay, well,
yeah,
it's not a death sentence. There are things we can do. Your adrenals, yes, they're tired. It's a warning sign that you're not respecting your natural cycles. And so that's why these conversations need to be being had, especially as we get older and then we are entering menopause, that we have to work with these natural cycles. It's not a death sentence, but we can be smart about the way that we train, the way that we eat, the way that we do things that are hormetic stress, like fasting and cold therapy. We need to have nuance around these cycles, or else we get into that sympathetic dominant place, and then we have burnout, and then we're like, shit, I'm waking up 15 times a night. I feel like crap. My thyroid levels are off the charts now. What the heck do I do? So I don't want women to get into that red zone because they're doing all this stuff that, my profile and everything is from the carnivore diet. I got into my whole platform because my gut was a disaster. I was just a total wreck. Tried the carnivore diet out of desperation, did amazing things for me, started my profile, it blew up, and then I got a year into it and was like, oh my gosh, I'm having all these adrenal issues. I'm having all these problems because, God bless Sean Baker, I was just on his podcast recently over the weekend. But a lot of women, a lot of people doing these diets and fasting, they're trying to do it like the men. And then they run into like, why is my thyroid bottoming out? Like, what do I do? So that's where we have to take a step back and look at these things.
Totally. And I think it's important too to have listeners and the women that are connected here understand that we are women, and no two humans are the same on the planet, but just no two women are the same either. And that there is a strong correlation with how sensitive we are, with how much regulation or dysregulation we have in our hormone and our hormones. And that doesn't just mean sex hormones. That also means cortisol. It means the other things that are going on in our system, right? The allostatic load, the amount of stress that we have. And without far too often, I think we're like powering through, or we're not examining that closely enough. It's like if your best friend is like, awesome, totally regulated hormone profile, even if she's aging, even if there's less estrogen than there used to be, or some things going on, but you're in total dysregulation, super estrogen dominant, or you're like having some things going on with your birth control, or you're like there are things in the world, we can talk about carnivore, because I've done a lot of diets. I had so many people coming to me asking about it that I was like, fine. I'm going to do a legit full-on carnivore diet for 30 days. And by day 19, I was so dysregulated, so uncomfortable, and was like, the only reason I'm potentially staying on this is because I've told people I'm doing 30 days. There's really it's just arbitrary. And at that point, it's like there's no value for me at that day 20, to continue. Right. So I'm like, okay, and I'm done. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't work for people at a longer scope. Part of the reason I got into it is a gentleman at the gym I was working at in LA. was like, I'm doing carnivore, and he's like crushing it. And he's 27. I mean, a man. It's just not, you know, and I think that there's validity, of course, in the diet. I think there are reasons to do it, and gut healing protocols that are amazing. I just think we have to stop reading things and taking things on. And, you know, I always talk about this iodine fail. Early on, I had read a big blog that Dave wrote about taking iodine and all this stuff. And I was like, I'm getting iodine and bulletproof. And I started taking it. Along with, I take a lot of supplements, but along with some of my other supplements. And it's really the only thing I had changed. And I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 days in, I started being like, I'm having like night sweats. I'm getting irritable. And like, my body, based on my tests, didn't need iodine at all. No supplementation on it. It's totally fine. But I didn't look to see that. I read a blog. I just started dumping this in my body. And then I had a negative response. And one of my friends was like, didn't you just start iodine? Is that a thing? And I was like, oh, duh. Like, let me just look at my own capacity for what I'm weaving in. And so I'm a bit more prescriptive as I weave things in now, but that was a great learning and a fail. It's just like white lab coat syndrome, right? We see the doctor tells us to do the thing. I've had doctors hormone test me and say the wrong time of the month and with the wrong tests, and then say, oh my God, someone was like, oh, you have the lowest T score ever. And I'm like, women need a little, and this is insane. And we're putting you on DHEA, which is a precursor to testosterone and estrogen. And I spent 6 months with the worst, like high school breaking out acne all over my body. I was sad. Because I was literally, I went to a super reputable place in Los Angeles, did all the tests. And when I finally went to my doctor 90 days in, he was like, these tests were taken at this time of the month and not this. We needed to do a secondary test before they pull on that lever to say putting you on sublingual DHEA, exogenous DHEA. And it took, you know, more lab tests and a full 6 months to clear that through my system in a way that my body was not happy about. And let's just also talking about being a woman in Los Angeles where you have to walk out the door with acne all over your face to coach people.
Oh God,
feels not cute. And so awful lesson to learn. It's not a slight necessarily on the practice, except I listened too hard. And the doctor told me that. And then the nurse who gave me the stuff was like, I'm taking DHA and it's amazing. It's like this superhero that saved me. And you know what? It was for her.
Yes.
Because her body's different than mine.
Yes.
And so all of this detail is just to say, like, you got to know how you like your eggs, and you have to do enough research and careful trial and tribulation to make sure that the protocols you're putting in your life are working for you, adherable, and actually benefiting your body.
Yeah. I mean, so many women are like, I had my hormones tested. I'm like, well, did you test your progesterone 7 days after ovulation? Did you test your estrogen on, you know, days 1 through 3? Did you test your testosterone on this day? Like, it's not as simple as just going to get a blood draw and saying, oh, you got low progesterone or low DHEA. Did you test it on the right day?
Yeah,
and
I'm glad you're bringing that up, because I think you're lucky if you have women coming to you saying, I just said, oh, my hormone's done, because sometimes perimenopausally or menopausally that's happening, but most women are like, I never did a hormone panel. So it's that to me is also like a scary bit of information. And it's like, yes, we should be testing and doing bloods and all of that, like not all the time, but like frequently, once a year, I would say, for like the average bear. If you have dysregulation more often to figure that out. But at the very least, even if there's no insurance, finding a way to save up some money and do something like a Dutch test, something that feels like a gold standard for that you can do at home, especially nowadays, right? Dutch is a dried urine test where it's women run company. They do a great job doing a consult with you on the phone. You know, there are other tests out there, of course, like I have no affiliation with them, but I'm always singing the song of like saying, let's get our hormones tested to see what's up, especially if we're younger and things feel fine, because then you have something to compare to, your hormones against your hormones, not against the national average.
Right. Yeah. And it's such a, like you said, it's a nuanced conversation. And I feel like if you start kind of tackling things before they go really downhill, I think you can do a lot more about it than if you're coming to me with everything just tanked out, you know, and not even knowing what a normal baseline is for you. And I feel like there's a lot of shame in women now that are in their 40s. My thing is like, there's a lot of men, and then there's a lot of like younger females who've never experienced hormone issues, really dogging out doing any kind of HRT, doing any kind of supplementation. They're just like, no, you should never do it. But then I get women who are like, I'm so depressed. Like I am literally depressed, can't get out of bed, have no energy. And I'm like, this is maybe where you do want to work with a doctor who knows what they're doing, who can do a Dutch test and help you strategically add a few things back in here. It's not a dirty word. It's not the worst thing in the world, but we have a lot of like, younger people who've never had these issues that maybe have seen some research where, HRT can cause issues with women and, stuff, but it's not the end of the world and it's not the worst thing that's out there and it's not a dirty word.
Yeah. And I think women should have options. We should have options based on what's going on in our body. And, it's the guys at Asprey that said to me, I want to make sure I get it right the way I say it. I'm just going to summarize, but it's like, our hormones don't decline because we age because our hormones decline.
Yes.
And that's like, we have to know that. We have to know that enough that there is a value into keeping a hormonal profile in our body that is functional. It doesn't mean we have to do hormone replacement therapy, but it is important to look at all the avenues of things that are gonna help, gonna keep us feeling good, right? Especially when we're dealing with a time where there's a lot of depression, anxiety running rampant, especially because women are more sensitive to, we generally need a little more sleep than men. And we generally in the research are showing up as like more susceptible to depression and anxiety. And like, look what's going on in the world. Nobody who's listening to this has not noticed what's going on in the world right now. Our mental capacity for taking on stress is just, because we have this low level of stress that we're living with in news and media and the whole situation in the world right now, our mental capacity just doesn't have the ability. Someone was like, there was someone on social that was recently just like doing something really funny about it. Just like before COVID, this is how I did all this work and got it all done and powered through all of my, my emails and just handled it, right? And then now it's like it's like noon and I need a glass of wine to manage my workload, because we're just like, and they're like, what's the difference? Like I'm just at home working, but it's like there's many facets of difference. So yeah, it's like, I'm glad that you're on the other side of this mic and this conversation. I'm glad that there are people in the world like you doing the work that you're doing, because it's beautifully important. And I just want to honor that. Anyone who's listening to this too, like women, it's like, you're not alone in this. Lately, I do phone calls every week with new women I'm having conversations with, sometimes coming in my program or just questions. I'll do like an ask me anything call with someone. And it's just, I wish I could record. I certainly don't, because it's like, privacy.
Yeah.
But I wish I could record, right? From 35 to 60-year-old women are typically the age range that call me. And I want to almost like, I wish I could record the Tuesday morning for the Tuesday afternoon woman and just play it, because a woman will call me and say, you're never going to believe what's going on. And I want to say to her, you're the 5th phone call this week of a woman like in this specific, sometimes the other day I had it where a woman called me and I was like, I just talked to this woman. Is she calling me again? Like, that's because it's the same shit. Yep. It's like so important that we understand that we're, number one, we're not in this. We're not the only people this is happening to. Like, we're having conversations about health and well-being and energy and stress. And if you're in an age bracket where you're dealing with some kind of like hormone dysregulation or perimenopause or menopause, you're not alone. Okay. There's like lots of other women going through it, and we're still doing ourselves this disservice where we're not talking about it enough with each other. We're not, like this morning, I just met with a woman locally here to say, okay, look, how do we get a women's circle together? Like, I'm in Austin, Texas. How do we find a way to be able to talk about these things and to be able to prioritize? So this is something that we as women, I may be generalizing, but we tend to prioritize our community, our romances, our family, all these things. And that's beautiful, right? Our cerebral, capacity is to take in what everybody is doing and make decisions based on that, which we're in many cases, if you look at my friend Kayla, Bio-Curious Kayla, I don't know if you've heard her.
I just started following her. I think she's here in Atlanta, actually.
She is. Yeah, she's amazing. You should have her on. She's a neurobiologist. She talks a lot about the brain chemistry of women.
Oh, cool.
Differential women and men. And so she dives more deeply into all of that. But when you look and talk about the brain chemistry of women versus the brain chemistry of men, we are much more in consideration of what's going on in the tribe, right? Let's just use that word that someone will say is culturally appropriated and I'll get in trouble for, but like what's going on in the community, what's going on in our tribe, what's going on in our village, in our city, in our family, in our friend group. And quite often we are not prioritizing two things. Number one, self-care and recovery for ourselves. Number two, the things that we're innately going, oh, I planned that, but I'm going to cancel, or I'm not looking into that, or I'm not going to make or attend that thing, are these opportunities to meet with other women to have these conversations, right? We like let it go. I see that a lot. It's like, I think that we can do a better job as females gathering together. This is what we used to do hundreds of years ago, like gather together, whether it was that time of the month or whatever, and have conversations around life and times of what's going on in communities and play leadership roles in those communities. And we need to do that more. We are doing it. We're doing a great job in many ways. We need to be doing it more. We need to be putting our foot down and not. My other soapbox thing I'm going to talk about really quickly right now, because it has to be said, which is like, if I hear one more woman introduce themselves in a way that is apologetic and undercutting who they are and who they show up in the world as, especially as I see them, I'm going to jump off a cliff. I trained this fitness format for a number of years where I traveled around the world. So I get to say that I can generally see that globally, this is an issue, because I would go into these rooms and we'd do introductions the first day of the training in the morning. And women, I'd have anywhere from 10 to 50 women in every room for thousands of women all around the world introduce themselves. So I watched it firsthand. And after the first year, I was so downtrodden about the way that women showed up to introduce themselves. And it's not a slight or judgment on them. It's that I knew them. I saw their social profiles. I saw their background, their history, what they were coming into the certification with. They had glorious things to share and accolades that they could like vibrantly put themselves up on a pedestal in a way that isn't ego, but is confidence and is capacity. And they would introduce themselves in a way that just felt like they were apologizing for being present. And I don't want that for us. We have to do that better, you know?
Yeah. And we do that so often. I mean, I did it yesterday. I was, I'm in recovery. I haven't had a drink in 5 years, and I go to recovery meetings often. And I was sharing in a meeting, I'm like, well, I only have 5 years sober, and it's just such a drop in the bucket. And somebody like shared after me, and they were like, don't you dare minimize 5 years. Like, are you kidding me? Like, why would you, like, that's amazing. Why would you just present it like that? But I feel like, we are afraid to shine in so many ways, and afraid to say, hell yeah, I'm awesome. Look at what I have accomplished. Look at what I've done. Because we're afraid that, I think if we shine too brightly, that, other people, they do come for you. They do try to stamp you out, and they do try to say, well, that's not important. But we should still show up with that brilliance and that beauty, because that's what we have to offer to this world, and the world needs that. The world doesn't need people out there. There's always going to be people naysaying and saying, oh, don't show up like that. But we need more brilliance and more beauty, especially now in the world with all of the stress that we're all under. If we can show up with that brilliance, then we can be happier. We can we can exist better in this new world that we're all in right now, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like this is what you and I have platforms for as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more brass tactics and protocols and stuff about what we're doing, but like we can have a conversation about that too, so that there's some takeaways in the sense of, besides manage your introduction for a room full of people in the mirror in the morning in the shower enough so that you're ready to go with your like 30-second pitch of who you are. Like I want to give value to you in the way of like, we're having conversation around some fitness or hormones or whatever that you want to talk about.
Yeah. The reason why I reached out to you, that we talked about, was that I heard you talking with Luke's story about cold therapy. And I just got into the cold therapy myself. I have been this year just like, what can I do to optimize myself and having fun with it? And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to jump into 40-degree water. Why the hell not?
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. It's exhilarating. And I was at the end of like a 30-day challenge, and you on Luke's podcast were like, yeah, I had done a 30-day challenge. And when I heard that podcast, my cycle had been 5 days late. And that is a marker for me. Anytime my cycle is late or just like poof disappears, I'm like, I'm doing something wrong. And that's one of the things you talked about with Luke is cold therapy for women. So I would love to go into that. And if we have time, also talk about training for women and getting that estrogen window, because I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, capitalize on it while we can, for sure.
Yeah.
So breathwork and ice bath, cold plunge, deliberate cold exposure. Cold exposure, there's a lot of different names for it. Cold therapy, contrast therapy if you're mixing it with a sauna, but we'll specifically talk about the ice today because there tends to be more research on the sauna out in the world. Great benefits to that. But what I've noticed, number one, cold therapy has a ton of benefits. And there's 3 kinds of cold therapy typically that we see in the marketplace or in the world that it's existed for thousands of years. Taking a cold shower is a great entry point. It doesn't, many people come to me and say, I'm still working on cold showers. I'll get to ice baths later. It's like, you can, unless you have a health contraindication, I'm not a medical doctor, so I can tell you there are contraindications. You should make sure it's okay with your doctor. If you have like a pacemaker or diabetes, or there's some contraindications there. If you're pregnant and you've never done an ice bath before, recognize I'm telling you to talk to your doctor first. But cold therapy has many beautiful short-term and long-term benefits. If we start with a thing like a cold shower, it tends to be a bit easier, a bit less contraindicated. Most people can handle and tolerate a cold shower of some sort. And that's one style of cold. And that's, to me, I feel like that's an entry point. Sometimes people use cryotherapy as an entry point. Cryotherapy is you're in a chamber that's typically reduced temperature, and it is skin contact, but you're not submerged in anything. I think a lot of people do it because it's quicker and easier. You don't have to get everything wet.
Yep.
And then there's ice baths. So you're really submerging yourself, sometimes, putting your head under the water, et cetera, and the ice bath cold therapy style. So you can start with any of them. And I think the biggest thing to recognize, generally speaking, for women and just in generally for the population, is that the short-term benefits do exist for cold showers and for cryotherapy. They pale in comparison, and I imagine always will, to submerging yourself into cold water, taking an ice plunge, ice bath. There are 10x the benefits in an ice bath, and all of the longevity, cellular health, brown adipose tissue creating. We can talk about what those things are. Benefits are in the ice water, where you're submerging your body in some way, shape, or form. And you can start small. You can start just hands. You can you put your face in a bowl of cold ice water in the morning, really great for your skin. There's lots of different things that have come like from all over the world, Asian practices and things we've done for forever. But really full submersion is something that does boosts the potential for longevity in your cellular health in such a way, boosts the transformation of your physique. So if a lot of times I get women in the ice because I have a conversation around the brown adipose tissue that it builds in our bodies. We have, if you look at deep research, they will say there's more than 2 kinds, but let's just qualify them as 2 kinds to oversimplify: white fat, brown fat. Adipose tissue, fatty tissue, white and brown. White, great. That's typically what we're looking to lose, to be honest. Yep. We have something called visceral fat. That's the fat around our organs. That's like a mix. That's great. It's important. We need to have that to protect our organs. You don't want to have too much. You don't have too little. That's like, there's a balance there. But then brown adipose tissue, the brown fat is the stuff that's very richly dense in mitochondria. It is a way that we control temperature in the body. It controls our shiver response. It makes us more resilient, and it helps us be more metabolically active, which means we can burn more calories that way. They used to think in our 20s, we stopped making brown adipose tissue altogether. And then people found in strong temperature changes, cold and heat, that you could change that actually we could remake brown adipose tissue. And what we're doing is we're sort of transforming some of the other fat tissue in our body into the brown. So that's cool. right? That's a cool way to understand physique transformation and to know that there are, I've run some 8-week courses where people are doing cold exposure and breathwork and sauna and stuff. And you really see in the whites of their eyes and the way that their bodies transform just twice a week for 8 weeks.
Wow.
It's a massive shift in physiology and physique and in just, there's something about meditators, people who meditate every day and people who go in the cold, like there's just the whites of their eyes are just like whiter and their eyes are brighter and they look more vivacious. And it's a really interesting emotional transition as well, right? Because the benefits of cold in general does sort of give you an emotional boost, right? A bliss chemical release, but really ice bath long-term, if you're talking about antidepressant, anti-anxiety effects, it's a really beautiful practice to maintain. It is amazing and because we are more sensitive as women to those things, I think it's a if you can have access to it in any way, because this is another challenge of an ice bath, we don't all have that in our backyard, but if you have access to a swimming hole, a cold river, a cold plunge, you want to get a trough for your house, there's 19 ways to do it, and fall in love with ice. There are so many long-term health benefits. There are so many physiological benefits to physique transformation. There are hormonal bliss chemical mental benefits to boosting our happiness. There is a mental toughness component,
Yes.
which is quite important. It's like when I used to put people in handstands for the first time as a yoga teacher, out of the room like they just had sex. They're like, this is amazing. Like it's like half a handstand against the wall, but they're upside down and they're like conquer the world. So people leave the ice bath like that, and it lets you know that you can do hard things, and that's about resilience. And that's about, we don't sit in the ice bath and the cold plunge and the cold water. We don't do that to get good at ice bathing. We sit in an ice plunge to get good at life, right? We're managing stress we're creating stress adaptation and managing our breath and our body and our being in stress so that we can go out in the world and have stress thrown upon us in whatever way it's going to show up or unexpectedly, and be like, how do I touch in with my breath like right now? Long nasal exhales. How can I really be present in this moment and listen and stay calm and soft, right? As well as strong. And so that's what the ice bath gives you. Plus better sleep, plus parasympathetic rebound when you get out. I mean, there's so many benefits. I will say this, that the big piece of conversation for me is that daily ice baths, and women, especially if you're dealing with any dysregulation, but generally I'm conservative on it. I don't think women need to get in the ice every day. I think they tolerate less well. Men can pull it off, and just different hormone profile, different structure. And let me also just preface this entire, or like not even preface it, but say this as well, which is important, that there is not, there's research on cold, but you can imagine the different types of cold, the different types of people that are going in cold, the duration of cold, the temperature of the cold, there's so many different variables that the research is hard to nail down.
Yep.
It looks like 6 minutes is a sweet spot. You don't have to do it maybe all at once, 6 minutes. I think also meet yourself where you're at. You start with 2 minutes. Quite often that's what I'm doing when I'm coaching someone, is just starting. It's like minimum effective dose, right? I love Joe Rogan. I mentioned earlier, I love all these like tough guys. I love them, right? Smart. They're doing great things in the world. They're sharing with their platform. I do think that there is a piece of Joe Rogan, 20 minutes in a Morosco Forge cold plunge, just gritting it out and muscling it, that's actually giving us a bad lesson, right?
Yes.
It's not minimum effective dose. It is point of diminishing returns at that point. Now, if Joe Rogan called me tomorrow and said, I challenge you to an ice bath contest, I'll go sit in an ice bath for 20 minutes.
I'm here.
Ass. I'm there for it, and so it's like both of those things. That would be like a dream to do. And also it's too cold for me. I would point of diminishing returns. I would be failing my body that day. I would still probably do it because it's a one-off.
Yeah.
But he has an amazing platform to share with people. And I want him to share the method of cold. But what happens when he sits in for 20 minutes and it looks really scary is he turns people off from cold exposure. Well, you don't have to do 20 minutes. You can do 2 minutes. It's a piece of that. He doesn't necessarily talk about the breath nervous system correlation, which is like may or may not be a part of his brand or platform. And then he makes it less approachable because he's muscling through it and not doing the thing which we need to do as women, as men, whatever. It's just surrender, right? The lesson is about surrender. The lesson is about the state shift that can happen in our bodies when a large amount or a minimum effective dose of stress is hitting us. So I do strongly recommend that women who are into ice baths, and I love ice baths almost more than most people. Um,
They're so addicting. I
don't do it
mean,
every day.
yeah, that's the thing. Like, how often would you say that women could do it? 2 times a week, 3 times a week? Like,
I
what
mean,
have
this
you
is always,
seen
the
is
conversation
best?
is always like N of one, right? It's like, what
Yeah.
does it feel like? I have women that come to me and say, absolutely, during my period, I'm way too emotional and crazy and I won't do this. And I won't, like, their words, not mine. I hate when people say you're crazy, but you know, I won't, I don't want to get in an ice bath on my period. And that's during that time of the month. And that's cool. Like, intuition is important, right? We're not giving intuition enough credit. And also it helps with pain management. And also it helps with recovery for the gym. And we are only as fit as what we can recover from. Like, that's it. And so we need to recover. And the ice bath is a very good tool for recovery. However, if your bucket of stress is full to the brim, that's probably not a day you want to ice bath. If you're already like in a doctor's care and figuring out your hormones and they're all dysregulated, or you have too much estrogen or too little, or like, you know, there is a case to be made that ice can help rebalance those things, right? I do not have enough. The science is always catching up. I have plenty of anecdotal evidence around balancing your hormone systems. I also have plenty of anecdotal evidence about women getting in and doing it every day and screwing up their systems. Yep. So why not play it a little bit safe and smart? An ice bath 2 to 3 times a week. Awesome. Do that, right? Maybe not 19 days in a row, and see what's going on. If you really want to get nerdy, then do some lab testing before and afterwards and see what happens for you as an N of one experiment. And then the other thing is, like, we are seeing, you know, at the same time I say that, don't rule it out, because we are seeing there are some other women that are on the forefront of this like cold exposure industry that are seeing and having themselves really, you know, I hate to use the word curing, but like they and their clients and the women who have come to me are like, I have Raynaud's, or I have an autoimmune condition, or hypothyroidism, or Hashimoto's, all these things. And I'm at the end of my rope. Nothing's helping. And I've done all these functional med things, and I've tried all these things, and I've changed the way I'm training. And then they get in the ice and create a regular ice bath practice, and they are mitigating or completely eradicating all symptoms. Potentially the entire thing is going away. And if you look at Western doctors, they're not talking about, they're not going to say, go submerge yourself in ice. They just won't. Like, too soon, right? Jury's still out in their opinion, and that's cool. And why wouldn't you try something that's showing massive benefits that isn't putting a pharmaceutical in your body? That is like, is it easy? It's not easy, but you know what? The anticipation of the cold is way worse than actually doing it.
Yep.
So I love that you're starting this practice. And anyone, if you're in Austin at any point, and if anyone is listening to this and is in Austin, I have a beautiful Morosco Forge in my backyard. I do ice bath and breath coaching all the time here. And I love to be able to share that practice with people. It makes it really easy. So if you're looking for it and you're anywhere in the Austin, Texas area, I'm so happy to connect with people, you know?
Yeah. And I'm actually interviewing Adrienne next week.
Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, so she has had 3 autoimmune. She's a great person to talk to because she can speak from her experience. She had 3 different autoimmune conditions, all rectified completely over the course of 2 years of a regular, consistent ice bath practice by getting in the Forge. And she's a co-founder of Morosco Forge, and she is, and that's what I have in my backyard. So I know her really well. Yeah.
I want one of those so bad.
It's an investment. It's an investment of time, energy, and money, you know?
Yeah. Right now I have, like, I paid about $60 for it from Amazon, just a portable bathtub. I keep on buying them and like cleaning them out and just I'm like, I just might as well buy a new one. I use a Crystal Quest filter, just use hose water, but I filter it and then buy ice from the grocery store. And it's cold here, so the water naturally stays, you know, in the 40s. Pretty cold. And I might dump some ice in before I jump in there. And I use food grade hydrogen peroxide. So that's until I can afford the Forge, like that's what I'm doing. And I started with a trough. I started with a metal trough in a similar fashion with all those things. And then I graduated to a meat freezer for a year or so. It was a good exhale, because I lived on the 3rd floor when I lived in LA, and I would have to set the ice up 3 flights. It was like a mini workout pre-ice bath every single time I wanted to do it, which is fine. And with clients, I was always like, great, ice bath clients, they would leave and I'd be like, get in the water, because then I can capitalize on it. But then I went meat freezer route, which was great. I did that for a number of years. It came with me to Texas. I've had the Forge only for about 4 months or so. So it took 4 years or something crazy, 3 years to be able to kind of get to a place where I was like, okay, I'm the queen of this ice bath thing. Like, I need to have the gold
the Cadillac of ice baths. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's great. It's just, I say to people who are like, should I buy one? It's like, well, if you can just afford to put it in your backyard, awesome. But you also need to know that you like the practice, you're utilizing it regularly, which I do. And I coach people here, and it's nice. It's less concerning when you're doing it at home with friends to like filter and hydrogen peroxide. Oh, that's important. But when I have clients here, I need like the ozonation and I need the filtration and all that comes with that, and the self-chilling capacity it has. So yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah. 2022 goals, get a forge.
Yeah, totally. And then just keep focusing on that goal. Just keep focusing on it over and over and over again. It will come. It just took me probably like 8 to 10 months longer than I wanted to wait, but you just,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just want to encourage more women, because I feel like the ice bathing is like a completely male dominated place right now. And I feel like so many women could benefit from it. But with the nuance that we have to be careful, because the two things that happened for me after, I'm hardcore. That's just me. Like, I have a lot of willpower. And if you tell me to do something that is going to heal me, it could be my age too, because I wasn't always like this, but I'm going to do it. If you tell me to do carnivore diet and fast and ice, and I'm like, fine, I'll do it. And then when I don't get my period and my sleep turns to crap, I'm like, oh, So the other thing that happened besides my cycle being late after 30 days straight of ice bathing is that I had this like neck pain. And I thought, oh, I've just messed myself up doing something with my strength training. And so I gave myself a couple days off, but I was still ice bathing. And I'm like, but I haven't done any. And so once I backed off the ice bathing and knocked it back, the neck pain went away. And so sometimes these things that we're like, we think it's a direct correlation between our body being like, I've hurt myself in the gym. It could just be your body like in this sympathetic state. It's just like stuck there. And so I feel like we need
the sensitivity response is real too as females. And then also like, this is the other beautiful dance. Like I know Adrienne very, very well. She's one of my closest friends. We've bonded over ice and cold. And I've gone out and gone through the Morosco method and all these things. I have a really keen understanding of the work that she's doing, and we both, I think, highly respect each other. I also know that she's much more comfortable with putting women in the ice on a relatively daily basis, because until there's 500 case studies, to tell people to not do something is in some people's minds, like, it's like, okay, like we can err on the side of the caution, we can be safe, when you look at the landscape, it's like, if it works for you to go on the ice every day, then go on the ice every day. I'm coaching so many women that I feel like for me, it is an irresponsibility to push women to go from zero ice or zero cold into cold all the time every day. This is not a deterrent to not do it. Like that's the other thing I want to be clear on. It's like, let's make sure we're not wreaking havoc on our hormone profiles that are already challenged by our environment, toxicity, everything else that's going on in the world. And so, but that's the dance, right? That's the dance. And Adrienne and I talk a lot about what's going on with our women and our clients and anecdotal evidence, because it's all we have in many ways, right? And so Soderbergh, who just got interviewed on Huberman's podcast, like, there's lots of that dance of going on. What's going on in sauna? What's going on ice? What's the best duration? There is some research. We don't have to always be like science-backed and evidence-based to know what things are working or not. That's the real truth. Like it doesn't work into Western medicine until it's like in play for 10 plus years, 20 years. So it's the medicine is catching up. Science is always changing. So we need to be talking to each other more as females in this landscape, which is why Adrienne and I speak quite often and really deeply about this stuff, because it's important. And it's like what she's seeing and what I'm seeing, we're both making assessments and cueing our clients in the way that we see fit. And so it's important. And cold is like, it's game changing. And if no one is allowed to listen to this and say, I don't believe it works, or I don't believe in it at all, until they've done like 5 ice baths. And let me also say the other thing, which is like, you're badass and you might be like, ice, whatever, I'm getting in. It's nice to get a coach. It's why I say like anyone who's anywhere near Austin, or if I'm ever coming to market, or if you're following me at Warrior Woman Mode on Instagram and I'm in your area, region, whatever, like, or call me and have me come out. I run workshops on it all the time. It's like getting an understanding of what's happening in your nervous system, how to utilize the breath. It is applicable to every stress in life. And to have someone coach you through it a few times makes you feel like, okay, cool, it's a champion effort, and it's someone who's like got your back. Right. And so it's like, how do we continue to do that for each other so that we can just be like strong and steady in the midst of all the swirling craziness that's going on. Right. And ice teaches you that in a moment. Like if anyone's listening to this thinks there's anything else they can think about, their grocery list, their bad breakup, their whatever, when they submerge themselves in like, because I'm at 33 degrees in here. So sub 40 degrees in water, ice cold water or ice. There's nothing else you can do but be in that moment right then, right there, right now, right? Like I've been in practice so long that I can kind of daydream, but it's just, you could get conditioned over time. But mostly what I love about it, it gives you extreme presence for a short period of time. I get to practice massive amounts of surrender to check in with my body and my state. And then I get all the beautiful benefits, like long-term, short-term, and everything. So yeah. I'm so stoked that you're doing cold like this, and keep spreading the word. It's so beautiful.
I love it. And, you know, one of the questions one of the ladies had in my private group, because they knew I was going to interview you today. Well, she was the one who sent me the interview. She's like, please talk to her. She is trying to do cold therapy in her pool at home. And I think it's like 45 degrees. So she's going to try to get it colder, but she was like, can you please explain? And I've told them, if you're going to do it, you need to do it, you know, from neck down. You need to get the collarbone and the back. You need to get that immersed. Because that's really where that brown adipose tissue is, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, I get stuck at my waist and I can't go in any further. And I'm like,
amazing. And the word can't in that sentence is a mental block, right? There's a blind spot there. Like if she will listen to this, and I love you. It's amazing. And I know she's saying can't, like right now. I can't get above it yet. So I want to offer that. And I also want to say that I imagine she's gone through 100% of the things in her life that she's gotten through now successfully, and she doesn't have any contraindications, that there is a capacity that she holds, a deeper capacity, that last 10%, that last 20% that she knows lives inside her, and that you can get up to your neck. Now, here's the other important thing I'm going to say, which is, it's not just about where the brown adipose tissue lives as much as it is also about getting mammalian dye response to activate. So it actually makes the cold plunge easier by getting your neck submerged. It is physiologically shifting and shunting the blood faster. It is slowing your heart rate down, and it makes it easier. And I'm going to talk about this term until I'm blue in the face, until someone finally says, Kristin Weitzel has coined this term. I call it the turnover. I have put thousands of bodies in the ice, and there is a moment that happens between 30 to 90 seconds, depending on the submerged level, depending on the temperature of the water, depending on people's past traumas, which again is another anecdotal thing I see. 30 to 90 seconds. It usually happens within the first minute. All you need to do is get through that turnover period. And it is a combination of sort of a mental shift as well as a physiological shift and a slowing of the heart rate that takes you going from, oh my God, this is so cold, I don't know if I can handle it, to, okay, I got this.
Yeah. Yes.
And that moment is like a couple seconds long, and you can typically see it in people's eyes. And it's if you've watched enough bodies, you see it happening in just the facial response and what's happening there. And if you're coaching people to utilize breath and calm their nervous system state, it can happen even more quickly. The other thing that is a benefit of that is getting your neck in the water. I mean, when I go in and I coach some people, it depends on if they're new or not, but when I plunge myself, I like step in gracefully, no hesitation, plunge my head underwater. I usually do a whole breath hold underwater, like no pressure to do that, people, because there's a brain freeze thing there.
Yeah.
It's like an ice cream brain freeze, not a real brain freeze. And so it's like you go underwater, I submerge for usually like 15 to 30 seconds. I come up, I like sit and I do my time. And then I do a submerge on the way out. And part of that is to get my face and my neck fully in. So my body is like fully in. This is what's going on. And it's your natural response against and preventing drowning, against preventing hypothermia, it's slowing your everything down so your body can last as long as possible in cold. It doesn't know that you can step out anytime, right? It's just doing its thing. And so that turnover, and I talk about this on social, and I talk about this on almost every cold podcast I speak of, that turnover is critical. And so for the woman who's only getting up to her bra line, if you get to your neck within 15 seconds of getting your neck under that water, the probability is it's going to actually become easier.
Yes.
So like do the damn thing that way. It's really helpful, and it's physiologically a benefit to making it easier on yourself.
Yeah.
And so you're already a badass, you're already getting cold water, right? And for anyone else who's listening, if you're in a pool situation, people all the time are like, I'll put ice in my hot tubs and my pools. And it's like, you don't know the amount of ice we have to put in to temp it down, that it won't really work. It's too much water. But if you're in a place where the water's 45 or the water's, a little bit cool, like warmer than sub 40, at some point it's not going to give you the cold benefit, right? It's 65, 70 degrees. It's not cold anymore.
Yeah.
But if you're staying in that like sub 50 degrees, you're just staying a little longer. And that's how you like titrate giving yourself the benefit. And that can be a little bit harder sometimes, or maybe a little easier, but we don't, if we're in a river, we just get what the river gives us. Right. And so it's like still cold exposure is going to give you some benefit.
I love that. And
you got all the meat and potatoes right there. That's a great question. So thank you for that woman submitting that.
Yeah. I love that. There's that. I didn't know that. I had experienced that because I did an Instagram post, my first cold plunge. I filmed it and I did it real, and people were like, put your shoulders under, because I'm sitting there and the water's like right there, and people are like commenting, get your shoulders under the water. And I'm like, what? Why? I did it. I got in, And so after I got all those comments, I was like, fine, all right, I'll do it. I'll get my neck under. And I noticed it was easier. There was like what you call it, that turnover point where I'm like, oh shit. Oh, like it's like this. Yeah. So that.
And then your next challenge, girl, is to just.
I put my face in, I dunk my face, and I'll keep my face in, and I'll like do breath holds.
Yeah.
But I have like all this damn hair. And so I'm more for vanity purposes. I'm going to do it, but it's like getting all this dry, just, it's a pain in my ass.
Yeah, totally. And also like, it's a great challenge because it actually like, it makes it, it's the next level of challenge, right? It is, you put your head under, it's a different thing. It's like, it gets a little harder. Like, and so anyone who's like already got nice breath practice, like try some submerges, like put your head under, see what happens. I know the hair is a thing, but
I know I'll try it tomorrow. I'm taking today off. I'm trying to do.
Tag me, do it tomorrow, do it on camera or whenever you do it, tag me so that I can share it across my handles, because I don't do enough sharing of me. And, I try to walk the line between the, like wearing a bathing suit all the time and flashing my peach at the camera. It's so silly. Like it always gets the most likes and the most people are like, but like, oh, you're in the ice, and it's about the ice. It's not necessarily about my body. I try to keep it out of that realm. And
I know I rarely post pictures of myself like in a bathing suit or with like my stomach exposed. My husband kind of freaks out a little bit about it. I've only been doing the social media thing for like 3 years. And so anytime I post a picture of myself, like in underwear, bathing suit, he's like, what? That
I mean, our bodies are beautiful in every way, shape, and form, and it's totally okay. I think that like sometimes I feel like I'm not trying to be, I want the ice to be sensational and alluring, but I also just feel like enough with me in a damn bathing suit. Like, and I have from the challenge I did, I have pictures of me where I'm like, the ice got all frozen together and I had to break it up with a hammer and gloves. And I'm like, this is not all glamorous. I'm like in a sports bra and bathing suit, booty shorts, and the hammer, like trying to break down the ice and stuff. And so it's like, like we have to keep it light too, and be willing to laugh at ourselves a little bit. And I will also say, from kids, we're always like cautious. And if a kid doesn't want to go in the cold, that's fine. But like, this is also a practice that for every age range, and then perfect time of year, everyone's doing polar plunges at the end of the year and into New Year's start. And so it's like every age range can benefit. And it's like body shape, size, color, type, personality, who cares? Like we're all beautiful. And there's something that goes back to our like shine brilliantly, right? Like you need to stay shiny and show up as your truest self. And like part of that is on social, like if people so choose, right? Everyone gets the freedom to decide what they want to show. But and you want to be the most exposed possible, right? Like if you can you go to Finland, everyone's naked in the sauna, the ice plunge and the whatever. It's like, okay, that's just common practice.
Yeah. It's I have neighbors on both sides, so I do wear a bikini, but
my neighbors in LA used to be like, you're crazy. Like if you're like yelling at me. There was a guy who was like, I don't know, just played sports in college and was like, I used to do that all the time in college. And I'm like, come over. And he's like, if I don't have to do it, I'm never doing it.
Yeah, my neighbors think I'm completely insane because in the morning at sunrise, I'm in the front yard. I live in a pretty suburban area with neighbors everywhere. So I'm like front yard, barefoot pajamas, 30 degrees outside like looking at the sky, like, oh, where's the sunrise? You know, like every morning. And then I'll take my breakfast out there and eat with the sunrise, even if it's freezing cold. I don't care. It's just my practice.
Right.
And then I'll like walk, like after we get off here, I'm going to walk around barefoot outside for a little bit to balance this all out, hydrate, all the things.
Yeah.
And then I'm like in my bathing suit, bikini, 30 degrees, cold plunging. And then to make it even weirder, like when I get out of the cold plunge, I'll stand there for a couple minutes, just in the cold, soaking wet, usually like laughing hysterically. And they're just
yeah, totally. Big powerhouse executive women in LA getting out of my cold plunge, singing like Disney show tunes. This makes me so happy. It's all that response of parasympathetic rebound. It's so beautiful. And then you just touch on another quick point, which is important, which is like people who do contrast therapy between the sauna and the ice, you want to let your body do the work. So taking 2 to 3 minutes, 2 to 5 minutes, I even say, if it's tolerable, between the cold before you throw yourself in the sauna, or from the sauna before you throw yourself in the cold. So you're actually like letting your body do the work. Mm-hmm. We want to, you know, activate heat shock proteins, cold shock proteins. We want everything to fold better inside our cells and all of that. And so like really giving our bodies the space to do the work of retemping, and shiver response is totally great and appropriate to have. It is where you're building brown adipose tissue. So doing squats and push-ups and jumping jacks. Look, if you're really, really cold and it's feeling intense or scary, like do what you need to do to warm up, but also the shiver response is okay. And we're like worried about, oh, it looks ugly or it feels funny, but it's like I stay in and like create some shiver response in my system.
Yeah, I don't have a sauna, but I do have a red light it's pretty nice and warm. So I'll try to stand out on the deck for a little bit, and then I'll go stand in front of my panel for 20 minutes and I'm still shivering while I'm standing in there.
Biohacking queens. It's great. It's keep banging the drum on all of this, because we have to, keep banging the drum with all the women in the world, and just generally to get ourselves feeling healthy and understanding our bodies in space, so that we don't have to be relying on, pharmaceuticals. And, look, knock on Western medicine. Western medicine has helped us get as far in many ways, but also there are other natural modalities that people just are talking about very rarely that we need to be listening to and following. In order to optimize everything about our body and our brain and our being, for sure.
Absolutely. And I have one more question. You talked about on your podcast with Luke, this like estrogen window, and how we can really build a lot of muscle during that time. And it's a good time to kind of hit the weights heavier. Yeah. And that's like what is it like? It's in the very beginning of your cycle, right? Yeah.
So, lots of research on this, hundreds of studies since the 80s. No one was talking about it until more recently. Stacey Sims is one of these. I like to give her credit a lot, because she's sort of was on the forefront of this, like 10 years ahead of everyone else. I learned it from a man, which is, no slight. I just like, it was frustrating to me as a woman to be like, why am I learning this from a guy? Like not a woman telling me about this, but all fine, right? Like one of my mentors who I'm indebted to forever. I tagged him on the podcast that I'm on, that I talk about this always. He's probably like, enough already, Kristen. Dan Garner is his name. He's amazing. So he taught me this, and like also shared a lot of the studies, and I have since done even more research around it. And this is an important point for women. Number one, when you say there are times to lift heavier things, there are. We're going to talk about that in a second. But all of us should be, every single person who's listening to this, females, we need to be lifting heavy shit, right? That's like a hashtag Stacey uses all the time, but like we need to lift heavy things. And heavy is relative, and heavy can be scary sometimes. So we need to do it safely. But we need to really understand as females that lifting weights does not necessarily change our body shape in a way that's going to feel too masculine or too big, or like, I really think those things are dead. But I continually have women being like, oh, I don't want to have this shape, or I don't want to get too big. And like, as much as that's going away, the next thing happens where women what the real underlying thing is, we don't know how to lift heavy weights. Yeah. We aren't doing it. We're on our Pelotons 50 times.
Cardio queens.
And it's not okay. Yep. It's crushing our cortisol levels. It's crushing our HPA axis. It's not great for us. Cardio is great, but like fitness variance is key. You got to have a little steady state. You got to have a little cardio. You got to have mobility work. You got to have strength. Like all of this is stuff that I like beat the drum on like crazy in my online course for women, because it's like that this is a group coaching program meets online course, because it's like we need to know how to do this. So when it comes to lifting heavy things, there are in the studies, hundreds and hundreds of studies about, look, it's anywhere from like 6 at the minimum, 10 at the maximum. It's about 8 days in the cycle where we have this like flux of estrogen, and there's like a little testosterone spike and some things going on with our hormones that support this. But where we can actually build, in the research, it says anywhere from 30 to 45% more muscle with that estrogen spike during that period of time versus any other time of the month. So why wouldn't we go to the gym and lift? It is also a time, it's important to say that some research has come back that there are times that we have a bit more joint laxity and we're a little bit more unstable. So we have to be fully integrated. But when we're lifting things, right? So it's not explosive throwing movements with really heavy weights. Why would we not take those 8 days and find ways to slowly and safely, with great, effort, move heavy objects and have resistance training, which is also continues to come up in the research, eccentric movement, the benefits of that. Why would we not take those days and say, okay, in these days, this is what I do, this is what I do with clients. In this window of time, I'm going to do the most strength training workouts possible. Yep. Okay. Now, yes, you need a rest day, and yes, you have to gut check your own recovery and all these other things. But if that window is 8 days long, like I'm the girl in the gym that's like down, under the barbell being like estrogen, like just like whatever ridiculousness. And like you said earlier, I want to comment on it that you're like, my neighbors think I'm weird. It's like, good. Let them think you're weird and let them see it, because we are the future of healthcare. We are the future of optimization.
Let's start a conversation. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so it's like, I'm yelling estrogen. Usually there's music in the gym or something, so nobody knows. But it's a reminder to me to get up and to get in a cycle. I checked my cycle the other day. I was like, oh, I have one more day left where this estrogen spike is probably happening. I wasn't planning on going to the gym. I'm like, go and do a strength training workout. I went and worked out on this machine called the ARX, which I just absolutely love if you have access to it. But it's like finding the ways to be able to have resistance training, strength training. It does not have to be 150 pounds. Could it be cool if you lift it? It can be 25-pound dumbbells. But no more am I going to accept the pictures on Instagram of women that are diesel shredded on a bench in a gym with a pink 2-pound dumbbell. That is not how you get that way. That is not. And if we want to burn more calories, and if we want to become metabolically more active and efficient and have better longevity and bone density and all of that, generally speaking, we need to be lifting heavy weights. We're going to burn calories. We can get lean. You would have to target 2+ hours a day on real specific strength and conditioning, like a bodybuilder, and the way you eat in order to get big. Like I challenge women to be like, oh, let me see if I can go too far. It's like, it's hard to go too far.
Yeah.
And so safely is very important. And if you need guidance on how to, it's like, get in my program. This is like part of a lot of what I'm talking about. And it's what I coach people through with, like, I'll send them little videos and just making sure they're safe, making sure they're using the right programming. And it's so imperative. And like, just really think about that. In the man's world, if there was 10 days a month, 8 days a month that they could work out and gain 30.
We'd all know about it.
I'm always like, it would be like the Tom Hardy 10 days to muscle masculinity. Like, it would just be like, I would be on a late, it'd be 2 a.m. You'd be watching it. It'd be like a video you could order, a DVD, I don't know.
Yeah.
But we haven't talked about it as women. And this is like estrogen is anti-catabolic, which means it fights muscle tissue breakdown, which means we can work out some more. We still have to recover well. And we want to build strong muscle. And the way to do that is by this like micro stressing adaptation, which only comes from heavy strength training. Right. And so not only, but mostly comes from heavy strength training. So like lift heavy things, do the hard stuff, recover well, sleep well, but capitalize on your cycle while you have it. And then there's one more thing that we have to say in this conversation, Sarah, which women will always ask, is like, I don't have my period anymore. So 2 things are happening, perimenopause or menopause.
Yes.
Number one, Kayla is a great person to talk to about this too, because she's more like in tune with all the very, very, very cutting edge research that's coming out. But there are some parallels to when we're in a cycle for 40 years of our bodies creating these different hormones and responding in different ways. Even when we lose our period, we're starting to see some research that talks about brain chemistry, body chemistry, and then the fluctuation of having rhythms. Right. Now, maybe they're different, but rhythms in our body, because we've been entrained for all those years to have these rhythms already. And the second thing is women hit perimenopause or menopause and they go, oh, shit, I guess that's it. It's all downhill. Nothing left. I can't make muscle, losing muscle density, tissue, like type 1, everything's changing, right? Based on lack of hormones or whatever. And it's like, enough of that. Yes, we're going to have challenges. Yes, we're all going to age. It is utter bullshit to think that you can just, like, women who are like, I'm giving up, it's all downhill, menopause, I'm done. You can still lift heavy things and create muscle. You can still build your body. Is it harder? Sometimes, sure. Depends on what's going on in your body.
Yeah.
And of one experiment. But there are many ways. Like, I have women in my group using blood flow restriction cuffs and compression, and using ARXs and Vaspers, and just various different tools to be able to mitigate symptoms of what happens and comes along with perimenopause and menopause. I'm having them use HRT. There's lots of different resources. You don't have to use any or all of them, but know what your options are before you're playing the give up game, because certainly that's not a thing that has to happen. And it's quite often used as an excuse to not go pick up heavy things, to not go find the solutions that are appropriate for the age range, again, in a safe and structured and strong way. And so I want to say that out loud, because a lot of times I talk about reproductive years, cycle training, and also the way we can eat can correlate with our cycle. I talk a lot about that in my course, but it's like, and then the big question always comes, but I don't have my period anymore. I don't get my
I have that a lot with my ladies. Yeah.
So it's imperative that we continue the trajectory, and it's imperative that we understand that muscle building at that stage of life is even more important.
Yes.
Than the yelling on a soapbox I'm doing for everyone to strength train. It's like even more important to make sure that you are doing simple consistencies, or getting a trainer, or getting aligned in a course like mine, or finding a community that's going to help cheer you on to do that. This is how we age well. It's how we optimize our health, right? And I refuse to be, I want to be the 80-year-old woman that's like, lifting weights still and having, a vibrant life. And so regardless of what goes on, we need to be able to serve ourselves in that way, right? So we feel great and can help others.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, so many nuggets. I feel like I could talk to you for like another hour.
We did great. We did like an hour and 15 minutes. So
I know. Well, what's the easiest way? And I will link all of this in the show notes for everybody. But if women want to join your group, or they want to find you or follow you on social, what is the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, the best way to find me, Instagram is easy. It's Warrior Woman Mode. That's my handle. I do most of the work on, and you can find me, the trajectory of like, it's tentacles to everything else I do there, including Well Power podcast. And then online at warriorwomanmode.com. That's the portal to my online course, my one-on-one coaching. I have a couple different programs in the way that I work with females. One of them is like a higher level of commitment of like time, energy, money. And then the online course is a beautiful opportunity for like group coaching, still gets live time with me. And then you have lifetime access to this course, which covers all the refined details in a very snackable, they make fun of me because I use that term, in a very snackable way, so that you can like digest what is going on piece by piece and build a scaffolding to your optimal wellness. It's called Wow Factor. It's women optimizing wellness. Wow. So all of that stuff is really easy to find if you dig a little into Kristin Weitzel or Warrior Woman Mode. And it'll help all the ladies out there, all the women in the world, balance their soft and their strong and their longevity.
Awesome. Well, I am so excited to share this conversation with everyone. Like, I want to upload it now. So thank you for all of this.
I'm so glad that we got connected. It's the beauty and power of digital, right? And it's just, I want to honor the work that you're doing and everything that you share with the women in your groups and all of that. And so let's stay connected, and let's keep supporting each other. I love what you're doing. It's really beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.